What was life like for you before you got your diagnosis with Hashimoto's? Or maybe you don't have it yet, and maybe you're in the same spot that I was. Before my diagnosis, I felt exhausted, depressed, defeated. Most of all, I was confused and I was scared because I did not know what was going on. Now, I am a nurse and I have been a nurse for over 20 years. I went back to school after working in the emergency department for about 17 years. I went back to school for holistic health. I am a holistic health educator. I understand health. So when all of these things were going on inside of me, I didn't know what was going on and I was scared. I'm like, what is this? I don't like to be confused. I don't like to not know the plan, to not know how to progress. Maybe you can relate. Now, I thought maybe a thyroid, but I really did not want my thyroid to be a problem because every time I studied thyroid, whether it was my original 4 years in nursing school, or whether it was when I went back to school for holistic health, or even as I've done continuing education, every time I came across thyroid stuff, I would do my best. I would take notes. I would try to figure out what was going on. And every time I left confused. There were too many letters, TSH, T4, T3, too many things that did not make any sense in my brain. Things going up when other things are going down. I just did not get it. So I decided when I felt horrible that it could not be my thyroid because I can understand anything else. You can just stop me on the street and ask me any question about health and I can probably give you a whole person perspective. I can talk about body, mind, spirit, diet, and environment as related to your question and how to move forward. That's what I do. When it comes to thyroid, I was always confused. So I was like, no, it cannot be my thyroid. And so I'd look at thyroid symptoms and I'd pick out all the ones that it could not be, that did not describe me. And of course, if you've ever looked at the symptoms of Hashimoto's or hypothyroid, you know that they cover the gamut because every single cell in your body needs a little spark plug. It needs the energy, and that's from your thyroid. So every single cell in your body is affected by your thyroid, which means the symptoms of hypothyroid, low thyroid hormones, that's going to affect everybody differently. It can range from heart palpitations, like feeling your heart go crazy. It can range from that to your reproductive health, to your emotional and mental health. Of course, people think of thyroid, they think of losing your hair or of weight gain, feeling cold. There are so many different symptoms. So I would look at all those symptoms. I'm like, nope, I don't have these particular ones. So clearly it's not my thyroid because I did not want it to be. Having Hashimoto's or thyroid problems scared me. And so I did not seek a diagnosis for a very long time. Once I did, and once I got my diagnosis, I turned to my husband and I said, here are my labs. Please help me. And it was the best decision. I gave him a podcast to listen to. And I said, okay, here's a little explanation of thyroid. Can you please understand what's going on with my labs and tell me? And he did. And he got me through that first day. And then I was able to go through all those lectures that had confused me before. And I was able to understand thyroid in a whole person perspective. So now I understand Hashimoto's and I understand hypothyroid problems in body, mind, spirit, diet, and environment. And this is my goal with this podcast is to help you understand so that you don't feel confused, so that you don't feel overwhelmed, so that most of all, you don't feel scared. I want you to have a solid plan for health. I want you to have hope in your future because there is hope. You can have better health. So as we go through the next, 100 episodes or so, I'm sure you're going to want to know who I am. So this episode number one let me just give you some background. I have always wanted to be a nurse. Well, of course, that changed as I was going through high school. Sometimes I wanted to be a doctor or maybe physical therapist, occupational therapist, but I always went back to nursing. And once I graduated from high school, I went straight to college, 4-year degree in nursing. After that, I went through a couple of different nursing jobs. I always knew that I wanted to be helping people holistically. Even as a freshman in college, I wrote a paper about how your health is like a three-legged stool. At that time, I only knew three legs: body, mind, and spirit. Now, as the time went on and when I went back to school for holistic health, I discovered it's not just a three-legged stool, but it's five: body, mind, spirit, diet, and environment. Everything impacts everything. So I graduated from college, started working at a medium-sized hospital in Minnesota because I knew I wanted to go up to Alaska. And in that environment, it was one clinic, one medical doctor for an area the size of Ohio. The nurses did everything. We ran the emergency department, we ran the clinic, we even did our own x-rays, and we had to make our own food for our inpatients if we had any. And when I say the nurses, I mean one or two nurses in the entire building taking care of everything. It was incredible. So I worked in Alaska for several years where I did get to help people, body, mind, and spirit. One of the reasons I loved that clinic was because it looked at each person holistically. I know, maybe you know, that when you are feeling defeated, when you don't have any hope, that's going to impact your physical health. So helping people have hope, helping people know that they are loved is part of medical care. I hope you know that you are loved, and I hope that you have hope for your future. So after Alaska, I traveled around with my husband. I was a travel nurse for a year. We settled in Montana, where I worked in a level 2 trauma hospital. I worked in the emergency department and absolutely loved it. Eventually, we settled back in Minnesota so that my husband could go back to school for nursing. And it was about that time I was pregnant with my third kid when I found out about functional medicine. And I remember sitting in the emergency department. I was largely pregnant. They had me in a quieter area of the ER because they felt bad for me so that I could have a little calmer time, as my as my uterus contracted. I was largely pregnant. So I sent an email to my husband 3 o'clock in the morning. And I said, this is what I want to do. Functional medicine helps people look at the root of things, not just the symptoms. It was mind blowing. I absolutely loved it. And that was my goal ever since then. So after my fourth son was born, I did go back to school, and I went back to school for holistic health. After I graduated, eventually I left the emergency department to open my own holistic health practice from my home, where I coach people over Zoom, even before Zoom was popular. And I love it. Helping women create simple and sustainable habits that will impact the whole person so that she can enjoy better health. That is what I have been called to do. I love serving women in that way. So, as you can imagine, when I felt exhausted, depressed, confused as to all of the things going on, when I felt like I had nothing left halfway through the day, when I felt like I wasn't good enough, when I felt like everything was my fault, when I felt like I was falling apart, when I was too tired to do anything, when I felt like I was letting every single person down, I was so confused and I was so scared because I help women with these things. In fact, I had created a program. I had taken my um, premium coaching program and I had put it into something where every woman can afford it with a time budget and a financial budget. So I took a $3,000 program and I put it into an app-based program, and it's called Abundant Energy for the Weary Mom. So I looked at this program and I looked at myself. I'm like, how can I be feeling this way? I teach women how to have abundant energy, and I don't have abundant energy. What is going on? Eventually, I did seek help. I got my labs and I found out that I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And like I said, I turned to my husband and I asked for help. And now I am here to help you figure out a path forward, because there is a path forward and there is hope. And yes, I know that Hashimoto's can be confusing. I'm here to help you figure out what's going on and how to move forward. If you have any questions as you listen to these podcast episodes, please send me a message. go to my website, which is thewholeyou.care. .care, not .com, thewholeyou.care. Go to my website and send me a message, or hop over on Instagram and find me at estherY.rn and send me a message. Ask me any questions and we can discuss it on this podcast. I look forward to seeing you in future podcast episodes where we're going to talk about, what do your labs mean? What do you do on the day of your diagnosis? What are the root causes of Hashimoto's? And how can you find help, hope, and healing? Hey friend, I hope you loved today's episode. If you want to continue on a path to health, come join my program, Abundant Energy for the Weary Mom, where you will cut through the overwhelming information and follow a simple and sustainable path toward health. With support and encouragement, you will work in a strategic order to gain fast results that stick, so that you can experience each day fully and make a positive impact on your family and everyone you encounter. Please help others find this show by rating and reviewing it in your podcast app, or by sharing a screenshot of today's episode in your social media stories. Be sure to tag me on Instagram. You can find me at estherY.rn. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please be sure to discuss any concerns and plans with your trusted healthcare professional. Finally, may the God of hope fill you with joy and peace, and that in all aspects, I pray you have